Hey there YouTube, this is sjm4306 and this is another episode of a series I haven't done in quite a while, TeardownTube. So let me just get this out of the way. I've done a teardown before of this guy, which is a Sony Watchman, easily confused with Walkman. And this one was the FD-40A. And this was pretty interesting. And recently I just saw Dave Jones released a video of, I believe it was like a security camera version of it. And I thought, well, let's just see if we can find a larger one than the one I had, which I believe this is only like an 1.5 inch, 2 inch screen, something like that. And I found this guy for just under $10, which is absolutely crazy. This, I believe, is about a 3.5 inch screen, something like that, maybe 3 inches. This guy is the, let's see, FD-40A. So it's pretty much, the big brother of this little guy here. And just to give it a quick test, this has, I believe it's RF in. I was able to input composite video directly into that, and it worked just fine, albeit the picture was a little bit meh. But basically, I believe this is just straight up RF in because there's no other audio input, so, and it's labeled AV, so I can only assume. Anyway, I did not have any 6-volt adapters, much less center negative 6 volt. So I rigged this guy up here, which is a set of laptop batteries all in parallel, and then a switching converter, a boost converter that I've tweaked to give me 6 volts on the output. And so let's just see if this turns on. Beauty. So yeah, you can see here, the screen is actually angled a bit so that when you sit it flat on a table, you can be looking down on it at a slight angle and see it. There's a bit of a skew on the image. You can see actually the bottom corner isn't quite square per se, so I'm probably going to have to open this up and calibrate this anyway. But let's just turn that guy off and disconnect the battery just for safety and show you guys a little bit of the other features. So there's V-hole, brightness, contrast. You can have an external antenna. The antenna is quite long. It swivels out and it bends. As well as the center negative 6 volt DC in. And these little straps for, I guess, if you had kind of like a shoulder strap sort of thing. And the screen is actually held on. It's a piece of plastic, and it's held on by 2 security screws. One of them is missing in my case. As well as a headphone jack on the front there. On the top side, you have the power button, which is just a latching type, and UHF, VHF band select. And nothing on the bottom. As for batteries, 4 C cells, of which I have no C cells, so I had to rig the, this battery. Anyway, let's just give this a quick open. I can see it's pretty corroded on the inside there already, so. We're just gonna give this guy a bit of a wiggle. It looks like it has to clear the RF jack there, the RCA jack, I mean. So we're gonna have to tilt it towards that direction, and the knobs are gonna pop off, it looks like. Fair enough. Okay, so we're gonna have to remember to put these little knobbies back in. And, okay, looks like, that little strap that was on the top is all that's holding this on. It looks a little bit crusty in there, but all the stickers, warning stickers and whatnot, are still in there, so great. So they should be discharged enough, so I should not get any shocks. Let's see. What? Okay, pretty much nothing under that. I'm guessing maybe that's high voltage stuff. They just put a bit of electrical tape on there. So there's one screw there I can see right now. Get this guy out. It's a tiny little screw. And hopefully that is all. Okay. So underneath the black plastic tape there is a plastic clip that you can use to kind of start levering it out. And okay. So we can kind of get this piece, the board, shifted out so that we can lift that up. And let's see what we're dealing with. I don't know how many cables are under here. Oh wow. So we can already start to see the tube neck itself. I don't want to put my fingers right on there. but there are lots of cables. I'm not going to go too deep into a teardown, and because I would probably actually need to desolder all these cables. I don't think they're even socketed. You can see the volume control is just a potentiometer on the board. We have some adjustment pots here, probably for the, possibly the RF or something like that. The power switch is actually way back in here, this little blue guy, and there's a mechanical arm that attaches to the actual, it's actually spring-loaded, interesting. As well as, let's see, find a transformer in here. There's a shielded metal box in there, and if I stand it upright, you can get a better look at it. This guy here, this is the high voltage transformer. It generates a high voltage for the tube, which is necessary to run the tube. And let's see, as ginger as I can be. Okay, so here are those three, they're carbon film potentiometers for adjusting the vertical hold, the brightness, and the contrast. There is a small fuse in here, so if you get one of these that doesn't turn on, that would be the first thing I check on continuity. And from what I can tell, this is actually what I thought. The RF input, the RCA jack, has a special little switch inside. When you insert a jack, it automatically switches to video input mode, and it disconnects the tuner. And you can see that there's a number of pins extra that facilitate that mechanism. And yeah, that's about as far as I'm willing to pry into this without having to desolder millions of wires and figure out where they go again. So we can see that this tube is magnetically deflected. You can see kind of gold color copper wires. Those are for the horizontal and vertical deflection. And so you can basically see the stem of the tube here, the very end. And let's see if there's anything interesting. Just says CRT. This is going to be where the electron gun terminals come out, as well as anything biasing for the tube itself. Let's see. Okay. Here we can see kind of this rubber gasket and a high voltage lead coming out. It's a very thick lead, actually, and it goes right into this high voltage box. That's for, not sure exactly the terminology, but it's for biasing the front of the display so that you can accelerate the electrons towards it. This is common in CRTs. Basically, it'll be kind of the flyback transformer goes onto this gasket almost, and the actual inside of the front of the screen is actually painted in some kind of conductive, I don't know, paint or something like that. That'll make it conductive, but you can still see through it. And generally, that's what the use for that is. You can see the very interesting winding on the coils itself to kind of wrap around the neck. And we can sort of see these are kind of vertical, and you can see that this is situated so it's horizontal sort of thing. You can see that they overlap and they're kind of orthogonal to each other. And finally, the wires themselves for the deflection coils go to their own separate board, which is interesting. They did that. I almost wonder if that's actually a socket or if it's just hard soldered. And we can see actually there is more circuitry behind. Okay, so yeah, you could see right in there just about. It's really odd. It almost looks like a surface mount, like a soak package, but the legs splayed and kind of misaligned to make them through hole, which is really, really weird. I don't think I've ever seen that. So basically there is another board under it, so I'm just going to stick this board back on just to be safe and get the screw back in and then try to go at it from the front. Yes, I'm aware that sounded wrong. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of wires and stuff. Oh my goodness. So one thing I just note to be sure of when you're putting it together, that the plastic black arm for this guy is pushed in enough that you can get the switch down. Because it does seem like there's a lot crammed in here. So let's see if we can pull off the front. Okay, just got to be careful of that power switch, and it does come off. Oh, this is awfully nice. For service people, they put a diagram of the tuning indicator arm and how to wrap that wire and kind of labeled everything. So that's awfully nice that they did that, because the only people who would see the inside of this would be servicers. Okay, yeah, so you can see the little speaker in here. It looks like there's a bodge capacitor on there. That's interesting. You don't often see too many bodges in Sony equipment. They do a pretty good job. They actually are using tension string, in order to set the tuning dial based off of this guy here. You can see here, it's moving as I'm turning that wheel. So yeah, we can get a closer look at these deflection coils on this side. It's quite a bit easier. As well as you can see the majority of the tube, which is just, looks like it's wrapped in some kind of electrical tape. It's going to be epoxied down or something like that, plate glass onto the back side, and they draw a vacuum. So yeah, this is similar to conventional CRT tubes, but obviously the back side of the screen is where it projects, not onto the front. And you can see that it is quite curved, but they do a pretty good job of kind of getting past that. When they actually beam the image to the screen, they correct any distortions. So if you're looking at it head on, it does look actually pretty uniform. You don't see like a squashed image or anything like that. So yeah, other than that, you can see there appears to be almost like an electrode leading to the back of the screen. That might be what that gray cable connects to accelerate the electrons to that surface. And you can kind of get a look into the void of the screen there. You can't really see much. It's all painted black to eliminate reflections. But yeah, they, interestingly enough, right angle mounted kind of a PCB board. Actually, it's not even mounted to the board. It's just wires going to that for the headphone jack. And lots of adjustment trimmer caps here. So anyway, we're just going to go through and put this all back together now. And this is about as far as I'm going to go, because, as I said, everything's so tightly integrated that as soon as I start pulling wires, I know a wire is going to break and I'm not going to know where it's going to go. And I'd like to keep this working if I can. So let's go. Speed reassembly here. Okay, so now last thing to do before we forget, put these little tuning knobs back in. Now there is a little plastic tab. You have to be careful not to snap this off. And this can only go in kind of, you can sort of see the directionality of the knob itself. There's like a flathead screwdriver sort of port. And we're just going to insert that, and it should, without any force, just sort of slide in and then pop, just like that. Now let's just do a quick power test to make sure I didn't screw anything up too badly. Okay, let's hit the power. Screen turns on. Voila. Tuning knob works, though in the US at least. I'm pretty sure a lot of other countries, we've shut off analog TV, so we're not going to get anything here, unfortunately. So yeah, all in all, this is a very cool 2 thumbs up. They're supposed to be up, but the camera's upside down. So 2 thumbs up for this device here, which is pretty neat. I could definitely see back in the day, actually, when I was a kid, my dad gave me an old black and white portable TV that was actually very large. It was about, like, I don't know, probably a foot and a half long. It was a 5-inch black and white screen, had a radio, TV, and it took 9 D batteries, I believe. And the power brick on it was ridiculously large and heavy. Fortunately, I threw that out stupidly when I was trying to go through and make some room in my room when I was younger. So I unfortunately did that, which I regret. But definitely, if I had this back in the day, I would have used this a lot. I used to watch TV on that. I had a kind of early bedtime, and there's some TV shows I wanted to watch that wasn't, airing during prime time. So I would watch it on that little 5-inch black and white screen with headphones on in the dark after my parents told me to go to bed. But yeah, so I definitely could have seen me using something like this back in the day. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and me rambling about old black and white TVs and generally how they work. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.